Welcome to the VC3 News Update. I am Shanette Hackshaw with the top local news stories. The Chief Executive Officer of the Saudi Fund for Development, His Excellency Sultan Al Mashad, and his accompanying delegation visited this country recently as part of their trip to the Caribbean. While here, they met with Prime Minister Dr. Afghan Sabs along with other government representatives. The meeting was also attended by Montgomery Daniel, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Transport, St. Clair Prince, the Minister of Health, and Curtis King, the Minister of Education. Prime Minister Gonsalves, speaking with the press, noted that Saudi Arabia and this country have many shared experiences, which must be translated into shared expressions.
You know, Saudi Arabia and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we have many shared experiences. And all our shared experiences must be translated into shared expressions. Because if we had shared experiences as countries which have come out of colonialism and fighting against hegemony and imperialism, for us to have our solidarity, we have to have not just shared experiences, but shared expressions, including institutional expression. And so we build a strategic partnership, not something which is episodic, but something which is lasting. That is the way we proceed.
Gonsalves went on to say that he met with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia and had the opportunity to speak about building a strategic partnership between both countries. He added that he was pleased to see the outcome of those talks.
I had the pleasure of meeting for the second time the Crown Prince, my dear brother, and we spoke. And we spoke precisely about what I've just said about building a strategic partnership. Of course, I had met him sometime before COVID in the United Arab Emirates, in Abu Dhabi. And I'm very happy to see the relationship is building. And we have already signed 2 projects, one relating to a main health center plus a few other health centers to do some work on them, and for a creative industries hub and 2 satellite hubs. The total amount is 16 million US in relation to those bundles of capital projects. And we have moved swiftly. We have been to Parliament with those agreements, and they have been approved by Parliament.
A government organization, the Saudi Fund for Development, SFD, offers grants and soft loans to support development projects and programs in underdeveloped nations. Since 1975, the SFD has provided funding for more than 700 infrastructure projects in 88 nations, including those in the fields of social infrastructure, transport and communications, agriculture, energy, industry and mining, and others. Meanwhile, the Chief Executive Officer of the Saudi Fund for Development, speaking briefly, said that the relationship between the SFD and SVG began last year and ended with the signing of 2 agreements.
Our relationship between the Saudi Fund for Development, St. Vincent, started last year and ended with a positive result by signing 2 agreements, as you mentioned, Your Excellency, worth $60 million, which is the start between us. The Saudi Fund for Development aims to established in 1975 and aim to provide soft loans for infrastructure projects to help countries to achieve the sustainable development goals.
He went on to say that he was happy to discuss further development possibilities with SVG and thanked Prime Minister Gonsalves for his hospitality. The initiatives by the SDF aid in fostering socio-economic growth and raising the standard of living in underprivileged areas of the world's most underdeveloped nations. The Sustainable Development Goals are being achieved in part because of the SFD initiative, which are in line with international development principles. Additionally, it coordinates its effort to help development through alliances and collaboration with national and international organizations. Dr. Cleve Scott, a history lecturer at the UWI Cayfield Campus, Barbados, congratulated the organizers of the One Family concert held on Tuesday at the Victoria Park to commemorate the 50th anniversary of CARICOM and also Emancipation Day. Dr. Scott was part of a 3-member panel on VC3's Round the Table Talk aired last evening, which looked at the topic From Emancipation to CARICOM. He said the concert was an impressive display that celebrated our culture. He made the remark just before getting into his presentation on the historical journey of emancipation. The concert, which preceded a fun day for family and friends, was largely supported by the public, who were well entertained by not only regional artists, but a number of locals as well, who demonstrated in every way that we are rich in culture and talent. The other members of last evening's panel were Deputy Secretary General of CARICOM, Dr. Armstrong Alexis, Dr. Patsy Lewis, Senior Fellowship in International and Public Affairs for Brown University. And Dr. Ralph Gonsalves has explained some of the paragraphs included in the declaration issued at the end of the summit for the EU CELAC held in Brussels, July 17 to 18. The Prime Minister had indicated that on his return to the country and at a media brief, he would go into detail explaining some of the paragraphs included in the document, which is a 41-paragraph communique. He told local media that the declaration has very important items of direct interest and material benefit to this country, the Caribbean and other CELAC members, and it also places emphasis on multilateralism, meaning states working together.
This is a document which has nothing about imperialism in it. It doesn't embrace imperialism, it doesn't embrace hegemony. It holds aloft the principles of multilateralism and the fundamental tenets of the Charter of the United Nations as to how to address issues of peace, prosperity, and sustainable development for all. Within that context, the declaration emphasizes the necessity and desirability for the reform of the global financial architecture, especially of the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund.
Dr. Gonsalves said the declaration also stressed more appropriate modes of development financing as well as increased sums for development financing. He explained, considering all that, approval was given from the Bridgetown Initiative, which is endorsed by CARICOM and CELAC at the last summit last year. The Prime Minister, who also has responsibility for disaster management, said the declaration is also strong on arresting climate change.
And an important paragraph states, and I will draw your attention to it since you have copies. It expressly reiterates the position of the developed countries to provide $100 billion annually to developing countries for the funding of climate change related activities for adaptation and mitigation, and with a pledge to double the fund for adaptation by 2025.
Dr. Gonsalves also said for the first time in any of those documents involving the European Union, there is included a paragraph on repatriatory justice for the enslavement of African bodies.
It reads as follows. We acknowledge and profoundly regret the untold suffering inflicted on millions of men, women, and children as a result of the transatlantic slave trade. We underline our full support of the related principles and elements contained in the Durban Declaration and Program of Action, including the acknowledgement that slavery and the slave trade, including the transatlantic slave trade, were appalling tragedies in the history of humanity, not only because of their abhorrent barbarism, but also in terms of their magnitude, organized nature, and especially their negation of the essence of the victims, and that slavery and the slave trade are a crime against humanity. CELAC referred to the CARICOM 10-point plan for reparatory justice. I would have liked to see that paragraph even stronger. But in negotiating, you take what you have as a platform on which you can build. But it is the first time that we have entry in a document involving the European Union of such a nature.
Tuesday, August 1st was commemorated worldwide as Emancipation Day, the day slavery was formally abolished within the British Empire. Those are our local news stories. Continue watching on Channel 114 for regional and international news.